We're going to look at how you can possibly win a 1.01 lay on Betfair, which is a common ambition for many Betfair traders of all different sports. After all, a lay of just £10 at 1.01 could make you a £1,000 profit. But just how easy is it to spot those opportunities where you can lay an outcome at really low odds and make a huge profit at the end? In this video, I'll be giving you some key tips on how you can spot these for yourself, and also backing it up with some real life examples where this has actually happened. So you might be able to catch one of these huge winners for yourself. Go grab a nice cold beer or make yourself an old fashioned and let's get into it. So in this video, we're mainly going to be covering how to win a 1.01 lay on Betfair. But since this is such a rare event, I decided to broaden the range and show you a range of low laying opportunities from 1.01 to 1.10, since I'm sure that many of you watching this video will be just as happy to learn how to catch some of those opportunities. And laying at 1.01 and it to go on and then win for you, or that person who traded at 1.01 to lose, it is a rare event, as mentioned, and it is the equivalent of winning a 100 to 1 shot. So when you do lay at 1.01, you are basically backing something that only has a 100 to 1 probability of actually winning.
So you're telling me there's a chance?
And if you look at the potential returns of doing that, you can see why there is an appeal. Okay, £1 would win you £100, £10 could win you 1,000, 100, 10,000. If you're brave enough to risk 1,000 laying 1.01, you could walk away with 6 figures of profit. And so you can see why it's appealing, and it does sound amazing when you pull these off, but you have to keep in mind that you're not going to pull these off every single time you go for it, every time you lay a 1.01. So it's very important to be realistic. If this is the type of thing that interests you, you have to accept that you're not going to win every single 1.01 lay. And if you are going to succeed at this and have any sort of success laying at 1.01, you need some of these things. You need patience, you need discipline, and you need that.
That is nice. That is nice.
Because this is not for everyone. When you lay at 1.01 or you're laying at any of those low odds from 1.01 to 1.10, you're going to have long losing streaks. And I can talk from experience with that. I share some of my screenshots where I've caught a team or a player and I've laid them at low odds and they've gone on to lose, and I made a nice profit from it. But a lot of people assume that that was the only time I laid a player in that odds range, when the reality is that you're taking lots and lots of little losses along the way until you eventually get that big win. Okay, so you need that patience, and you definitely need discipline to stick with it. But anyway, I'm going to dive into how you can find these opportunities for yourself in this video. But for those watching who have traded on Betfair for any amount of time, I want you to tell me, have you ever won a lay at 1.01? Tell me in the comments, have you ever won a lay at 1.01 or at least came close to it? When did it happen? What was the event? How much did you make? Let us know in the comments. These are usually stories that most of us can remember. We can always usually remember the first time we laid at 1.01 and had a winner from that. Okay, so let me know in the comments. Okay, it'll be very, very interesting. But moving on with the video. Firstly, I think it's best that we start with which sports are you going to find these opportunities in the most. Okay, so which sports are we going to find those low laying opportunities where the price can go between 1.01 down to 1.10 and then go on to lose. Okay, now it's these sports which are actually the best ones. Okay, tennis, cricket, and basketball. Yep, tennis, cricket, and basketball. This is from my experience, and these are the sports I see it happen the most, where a team or a player goes below 1.10, sometimes all the way down to 1.01, and then goes on to lose, or at least in these sports, trades significantly higher from that. And so you might have noticed that football is missing from this. I mean, should we be looking for these low laying opportunities in football? And what I can tell you from my own experience, and I've actually looked at a lot of data as well to back this up, 1.01 losers in football are pretty rare, especially at match odds. To the point where looking at the data, we actually found that you could argue there is a bit of value backing at 1.01 in football. Not to say that I suggest you do that. So you can definitely find teams in football trading below 1.10 that then go on to lose. But that actual magical 1.01 in football is pretty rare. It's pretty rare. It's pretty hard to find. So if you're looking for that 1.01, look at niche sports, tennis, cricket, or basketball for the best results. And just looking at my records, I mean, down the years, some of the most famous 1.01s that got turned over in football was Barcelona. In the match odds market, 2-0 up against Chelsea. If you remember this one in 2012, this was pretty spectacular. Chelsea came back and drew 2-2. So that was an interesting one. But that was 1.01 that day, which got turned over in a pretty high-profile match. But yeah, these are pretty rare to find. Okay, so there was that one there, and more recently there was the France-Luxembourg match. For those who remember this one, this was pretty interesting because France actually kicked off the match at 1.01. They were a 1.01 starting price, so that is definitely not common. France actually drew that match 0-0. But generally, what you're looking for is a team to go ahead, trade at 1.01, and then throw that lead away, rather than a team or player starting at 1.01. Okay, so yeah, that was an interesting one. And also, you might have thought that the Aguero moment, Man City winning the title in some sort of miracle circumstances or so, you would have thought that maybe a 1.01 was turned over in that one, but not so much. Manchester United were only matched as low as 1.04 in the winners market for the Premier League. Okay, so while it seemed like a miracle last minute goal to us, the markets were a little bit more realistic about what was actually happening in that particular match. So 1.01s in football are pretty rare. But anyway, I'm going to get into the tips. But if you're liking what you see so far and you're liking all this sort of content, please do support the channel by hitting the like button. Also hit the notification bell so you get all the new videos as soon as they come out. A lot of these videos do take a lot of time and research. So if you like what you're seeing and you find it useful, click the like button to show your support. It only takes you a second. And so tip number one, if you want to try and catch those 1.01 lays, tip number one is to check the time. So if you want to lay any player or event at 1.01, you want to do it if you can do it early on in the event. Okay, the earlier in the event that the prices trade low, the more time left for a shock to actually happen. So if you can lay a team in the first half in football, for example, that hits 1.01, well, you still got plenty of time for something to happen in the second half. Similarly with other sports like tennis, if it happens in the first set, you still got maybe another whole second set for the prices to shift or for something to develop in later on in the match. Okay, so the earlier you do it, the earlier you see those prices trade low, and the earlier you get involved, the better. If you're trying to get involved in the last few minutes, trying to lay at 1.01, looking for some sort of miracle, then it's probably not going to happen. But if you can get involved early on, lay at those low prices between 1.01 and 1.10 at least, then remember, especially as traders, sometimes you're just looking for a swing in the odds. Okay, you're just looking for a swing upwards. You can maybe remove some risk or just lock in some profit. Okay, it's a low prices to be laying at as it is. Okay, but the earlier you can get involved, the better. And I've got one example of an old incredible 1.01 that got turned over, which was from Reading versus Arsenal a few years back, which I believe was a League Cup match. And Reading were underdogs for this match, but they went into 1.01. However, they were 4-0 up when they went in to 1.01, which kind of underlines just how efficient the football markets can be when it comes to these 1.01s and 1.02s in the match odds market, especially because, yeah, it took Reading to go 4-0 up for them to hit 1.01. They were 4-0 up by the 40th minute. So plenty of time for Arsenal to get back in the match, a whole second half ahead. And keep in mind, if we're trading football, we're not necessarily looking for Arsenal to bring it back to 4-4, Just 1 goal, 2 goals, 3 goals, whatever. That's enough to swing the odds in our direction and for us to make a profit. Okay, so do keep that in mind. But that is a pretty famous 1.01 that got turned over because, Reading 4-0 up. Ended up losing that match 7-5, I do believe. Yeah, absolutely crazy match. And I do remember that one. But while you're here, if you are interested in actually learning how to trade football and learning some football trading strategies, then don't forget to check out the free strategy class. It is not available on YouTube. The link to that is going to be in the description of this video. Okay, in there I give you a sneak peek at all the football trading strategies that are working for me alongside some real life demonstrations. And like I said, it's not available on YouTube. If you want to see this, click the link down below. There's lots for you to get stuck into right there. Okay, if you haven't checked it out already, definitely head over and check it out. Okay, so let's move on to tip number 2. And if you are looking to win a 1.01 lay or any sort of low lay, then look for a fragile leader. So that team or that player who is winning, you want them to be a little bit fragile. Okay, if we think back to that Reading Arsenal match, Reading were the underdogs, and I think Reading were in the championship at that time as well. So you could argue that they were a bit of a fragile leader. They were the type of leader that you might expect to give away a lead to a Premier League team, even so be it a 4-goal lead in that particular case. But if you can look out for a fragile leader, and in this case, inexperienced leaders, they're much more likely to choke or at least to wobble. And also just look out for experienced leaders that are maybe carrying an injury or in some bad form at that particular time of the match, because that could also be a bit of a sign that they might be about to choke. And here's a good example from a few years back. This was you can see the screenshots, such bad quality. This must have been ancient times or something. But you can see this was Rafael Nadal. Okay, so he traded at 1.01 for over £1 million, as you can see. And this was against Verdasco. And I do believe he was leading. It was looking comfortable. And leading up to the match, there was rumors about him having an injury. He had actually been in a bit of bad form leading up to the match. And then, well, he was winning, but then he just fell apart, completely collapsed in like the third set. But yeah, some people out there had backed 1.01 to the tune of £1 million. Okay, and obviously if you laid that 1.01, well, you were laughing at the end of that match anyway. And so tip number 3, if you're looking for a player that is going to be trading low, or a team that is trading low, but below 1.10 all the way down to 1.01, that still goes on to lose, then competition prestige is also something to keep in mind. Okay, strong favorites can definitely lose motivation when they're playing in certain competitions, and tennis is a good example of that. This was a famous 1.01. This was only 6 figures matched on Novak Djokovic in this particular match, but this was in a tournament which I believe was Paris, where he traded down to 1.01. He was like a 1.15 starting price, traded down to 1.01 after being a set and a break up, and then just fell apart in the final 2 sets, and Query went on to get the win. However, yeah, it was a bit of a shock. However, if you think about it, if you're Novak Djokovic, you're a lot more interested in winning the Grand Slams rather than trying to win the Paris tournament. And so it could have just been a thing where suddenly the match got really, really tough for him, and he wasn't so interested in really trying to get the win. It could have just been as simple as that. Query was probably had a lot more motivation to get the win. Okay, I doubt this happens at the French Open, or I doubt it happens at Wimbledon or the US Open to Novak Djokovic. So that is something to keep in mind. You can just look out for players who, while they might be strong favorites, are they playing in a tournament which they're not so interested in? Okay, they could easily trade down to 1.01 if they take an early lead, but are they interested in hanging around and seeing the game out? They could easily lose their concentration, and that's exactly what happened here in this particular match. But probably the best advice of all is what I'm going to throw in here in this quick bonus tip, and it is to combine them all. Combine everything that we have spoken about in this video today. So if you think about tip number 1, where we're looking to get involved when there is a lot of time left in the event, so the first half in football matches, the first set or early in the second set in tennis, and similar in cricket or basketball, then combine that with also opposing those players or teams who go sub 1.10, who are also pretty inexperienced, especially when it comes to winning and putting games to bed. And then also just finally combine that with getting involved in tournaments which don't quite have the prestige, where there is a good chance where concentration can drop, especially for the more experienced players who maybe aren't so interested in actually qualifying or getting through to the end of this particular tournament. And then you could find a pretty good formula for finding these low lay-in opportunities. Okay, so they're definitely out there and they're happening on a daily basis. Okay, you just need to be in the right place at the right time. But this video and the tips within should now point you in the right direction. And when you win your first low lay or your first 1.01 lay, head over to the comment section and let me know how it went. But anyway, for those who are new to the channel as well, don't forget about the free football trading strategy session. We're not going to have this up for much longer from here. So if you haven't checked it out already, make sure you do so ASAP, okay? The link to check this out is in the description of the video. Remember, this is not on YouTube, okay? So if you do want to watch this, you have to check the link. And if it's still being shown by the time you see this video, then you can jump on and check it out, okay? It's a free football trading strategy session, especially for those who are totally new to football trading and who want to learn some strategies. But anyway, hope you've enjoyed the video. Remember, if you did, click the like button as well. It's very much appreciated if you do. And don't forget also to hit the notification bell. We'll hit the subscribe button, then hit the notification bell. And if you want to keep watching, there are 2 videos on the screen right now that we specially suggest for you to watch. Okay, so click on one of those 2 videos and then I will see you in the next video.